Hello. In a previous video, we talked about ScoutTrack and our pack website from the perspective of a parent of a scout in the pack. In this video, we're going to show additional features that a den leader would have and things that they can do that other parents cannot. So I'm logged in to the pack website as a user who has den leader permissions. I'm logged in actually as John Doe, and you'll notice down over here I've assigned that den leader to den 2, so now it says den 2 Doe. It has the den leader's name next to it. The other thing you'll notice is you have an additional menu item called content, and this is where you can go to add announcements or calendar entries or other things that might be of interest to your den. So when we click on content, you can see that there's a number of things that you have access to. In this video, we're going to talk about announcements and calendar events. Announcements are what show up on the front page of the website right in this area. So this Welcome to Pack 813 is an announcement that just always stays there with some basic information, the link to the other tutorial, and some calendar information for families. So to create a new announcement, you go into Content, click on Announcement. You can give it a title. You can also choose who that applies to. So just because you're the den leader of Den 2 in this example, you could create an announcement at the pack level, the committee, Den 1, any one of the dens. You could do multiples, so you can click Den 2. You can hold Control and click Den 15, and that will tie that announcement to both of those. So that means it'll go out in their e-blast, or if the person uses the content filtering on the website, they'll only see things assigned to that certain den. So in this case, as a Den 2 leader, I'm going to say just a quick announcement. I'm going to submit it, and so now it shows me the announcement I created. I can change it if I need to. I can go to Edit and I can make changes, resave it. From the Edit screen I can delete it, or I can go back to View to see what I posted. So now if I go to the home screen, you'll see that my announcement has now been added to the page, and it has Den 2 attached to it. So if I was somebody in Den 15 and I had filtered content to just pack in Den 15, I don't see your announcement. But if I have no filter, it shows up. So just so somebody coming and visiting our website doesn't see an extra announcement and get confused, I'm going to delete that so that our page is back to how we started. The other thing that you'll frequently do as a den leader is you're responsible for maintaining your calendar events. Our communication liaison to the church chair may do that for you to start, but if you have changes or add new events, you can just come in and do it yourself. We're going to probably mess with single events, but I'll point out that there's a recurring event. On the recurring, you can choose how often it happens. So you can say it happens every week, or you can say it happens the first week of the month, or the second, third, fourth, or last. You can choose which day, when it starts, when it ends, start and end time, title. Choose if it's your den, to attach it to your den. You can put in a location, or you can leave it blank, and you can put in the details. Once you create a recurring event, so if I would set this up and it created a monthly den meeting or a twice a month den meeting, once those den meetings are created, they become individual events. So there's no way I can go, if I create 20 events using this recurring and I need to modify them, then I'm going to have to go into each individual event and modify it. So the recurring just lets you set up multiples at a time. It even tells you here once events are created, they are standalone and need to be edited individually. So this is just a quick way, if you know you're putting the first Monday of every month on the calendar from September through May, you can do that in one shot instead of having to do it a bunch of times. So we'll go back to the content, and we're going to add a single event. So on the single event, we can choose the date. I'm going to say, this date's going to be in the past, but say our den meeting was on September 2nd, and it started at 7 p.m. and it ended at 8 p.m. So I can put in a subject, I can select my den. Let's say the locations to be determined. You can put in details if you choose. You don't have to. You can attach files if you want, but in this case I'm just going to create the event. So now on the calendar you'll see that it created this test den meeting. To edit it, I can go onto the calendar and I can see all the events. I can click on it, and then in a lot of places in our website you'll see when you click on something it has a series of tabs. Usually the first is view, the next one is edit. So I can edit the event, I can change anything about it, I can resave it. If I haven't made any changes I can just flip back to view, and this will show me the details that somebody's going to see when they come on the calendar. So again, back to the calendar. The other way that you can create an event is if you start out in the calendar instead of going to content. If you start here, you can find a date on the calendar and you can click on it, and now it's setting me up to create an event on that date that I clicked. You'll have to set the start and end times, title, pick the dens, and so on, and then save when you're finished. The other thing about calendar events is in our parent video we talked about RSVPing to events. You can also request RSVPs for events you create. So I'm going to go back to this test den meeting, and what I do is this other tab here, this sign up admin, will let me set up sign up registrations for this event. So the first thing you have to do is click enable to enable that. A lot of the other things we leave by default. You may want to choose, this lets somebody after they after they register, they can change it or unregister. Allowing for guests allows additional people to be entered. If you don't allow for guests, only the scout and their parents can register. It won't let them add siblings, grandparents, or whatever. You can choose to only allow dens associated with that event to register. If you leave the filter off, anybody can register for your den event. So if you're creating an event for a den, you probably want that on. This will let you choose scouts, adults, others who can register. You can set a cutoff date. You can set it to stop allowing registrations on a certain date. You can set it at a certain number of people. It won't allow anybody else to register. You can also add costs to the event. Typically this is just so that people can see what they might owe. If this is a den event and you've decided you need to charge for it, which we discourage, but if that's what you need to do, that's fine. But you would apply costs, and you can choose if it's a cost per family or a cost per person, or if there's a different cost for scouts, adults, and guests. So I'm going to leave the costs off. So when you've set all the options, you can read through the options. If you really want a lot more detail, you can go to this event registration guide, and it will tell you everything you could possibly need to know about creating an event registration. But after we're done, we hit save, and now if I go back to view, it will now have the option to register people for the event. Once people do register, you can come to the attendee list. A new tab showed up, and this lets me see who all has registered. It'll show scouts, adults, and the regrets, which we don't typically ask people to fill out, but some do. We just really want to know who's attending. You can sort it by family, date, name, various other things. You can export it, you can print it, lots of stuff you can do. So if you have a den event for which you need registrations, you can set it up this way, and you can play with some of the options and see what else you might be able to do with it. The other thing that our website provides is it handles all of our email communication. So by default, every den has a mailing list created. To use the mailing list, you just use your normal email program. So I use Gmail, and you can go into your program and you can send a message. So if I was the den leader of Den 2 and I wanted to send an email to my den, I just address it to den2@pack813.org, and then I put in a subject and a body as normal. When I'm done, I can send it, and that message will go to everybody in my den. I don't know if this is just a quirk of Gmail or if all email programs do it, but if I send this message, I don't get a copy of it back. So I'll send it, but it doesn't show up in my inbox even though I'm part of the den. But you can be pretty confident that your message went. You could ask an assistant den leader or somebody else in the den if they got it, but you don't get a copy of it back. The other thing is, by virtue of being a den leader, there is another list called leaders at pack813.org, and this list includes people like all the pack leadership, includes all the den leaders. So you have access to, as a den leader, to send to this list if you need something from leadership or have a question you want to direct to all the pack leadership or all the den leaders. So just know that those lists exist. You will also probably be getting messages from it as we have discussions and decisions and things that involve the den leaders.